Hello, welcome to When the Smoke Clears. I am the Recovery Plug. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning into the podcast today. I hope that you guys are doing good today. I know I am. The day's great. Another day sober, so it's great. But before we get started with the video, let's have a moment of silence followed by the serenity prayer for the addict who still suffers. So if you would, please, a moment of silence. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, wisdom to know the difference. Alrighty, well, let's get started. Today topic, I wanted it. I was kind of thought about what I wanted to talk about and kind of what the message of today was going to be for you guys. Maybe something I wanted to share, and I believe I'm going to pick the topic of reservations. Reservations in a context of a 12-step program, context of recovery. And, let me grab my glasses real quick. I looked it up. I looked up, okay, what is the definition of reservations? Because, if to the normal person, if you tell somebody, okay, well, we're going to talk about reservations. Well, what is it? Is it, reserving an activity, reserving a room, or are we talking about a reservation like a indigenous reservation, or different types of reservations? But in this particular context, it's going to be reservations, the context of a 12-step program, a recovery journey. And, when I looked it up, in that context, it was, it talked about it meaning there being doubt, there being hesitations or mental holdbacks to fully commit to a recovery stemming from denial, perhaps, or the fear of the unknown, the fear of not... the fear of having to take on a new journey, the fear of living without the use, and the fear of possibly getting out of the addiction, but at the same time, the fear of returning, failing. And, it was kind of, it reminded me of a... back in, I believe it was in 2005, I went to a recovery treatment center in 2005, and, when I went to that recovery center, that treatment center, I went to, quote unquote, save my marriage. I said, if I go to the treatment center, well, then I'll save my marriage and things will be good. But, I went totally for the wrong reasons, and, when I was there, the reservations that were going through my mind at the time I can remember is, well, what if I go through this and I don't save my marriage? What if I go through this and I continue to use? And, then what, or, I really don't want to stop using, but I'll just do this and for a little while, and then go back occasionally. You know what I mean? A lot of things like that were, going through my mind, and that's just part of an addictive personality, of an addictive mindset. Is that the addiction is cunning and baffling, and a disease of drug addiction is in alcoholism and depression and different types of addictions is your mentality is in a reservation mentality. In other words, you're always thinking about, okay, well, if this doesn't work, well, then I can just go back. Well, I'll just try it for this long, then I'll just you're always looking for this reason to go back to whatever was the stronghold. And for me, it was the drug use. And there was always a thing that, it just always had some excuse to always go back. You know what I mean? I was never satisfied with just, I could never see the picture of, okay, well, this is going to be a success. There was always this doubt, you know what I mean? And I can remember in 2005 when I went to that treatment center, I got out of the treatment center, and two major things happened to me in my life when I exited out of that program. Number one, I went to save my marriage, and ultimately my marriage failed. I wound up losing my marriage. So that was one of the hardest things that I've ever had to go through, because I made it an excuse. Like, man, I did all of this. I went to treatment and you still did this. So you know what? I'm just going to get, drunk and just do all these drugs. And, I kept myself in this pity party in a sense. And, it was terrible. It was tough. And then the second day or probably a day or two after I got out of treatment center, my father passed away from drugs and alcohol. And so that was another thing, that was another reservation that I'd anticipate, but nonetheless, it was there. And that made me also think about the same thing, you know what I mean? Okay, I want to just go and use and do this and just, pity party again. But because of the fact that I was at the treatment center and I kept myself engaged in the 12-step program, I kept myself engaged in a recovery community, and I kept myself engaged in a faith-based community, it allowed me to not go back to the addiction. And, it was... I was grateful for that. You know what I mean? I was grateful for the fact that, I stood by the teachings and things that I learned in the treatment center and in my faith-based community. And, so without those two things, I would have probably, I know for a fact I would have went back and I would have used. And it really, it was a tough thing to do, but I'm grateful. I was grateful at the time that I had the knowledge and that experience of going to that treatment center that kept me grounded and that kept me moving forward in a positive way at that particular time in my life, because there were the people that I was involving myself with in my recovery community. There were people who had gone through similar situations like me. So I was listening to those types of stories that I was hearing in these meetings that I would go to and these peer support groups that I attended and those types of things. And those were the things that, because there were people that were going through the same thing that I could relate to, was what kept me moving forward. And I didn't stay in an isolated mode and went back and dwelled on that reservation, because the reservations are always going to be there, but if I believe personally myself in my personal experience is that if you stay connected in that positivity, if you stay connected in that community of positivity, the community of your faith-based community, whatever your higher power might be. For myself personally, I believe in God, I believe in Jesus Christ, and that was the community that I involved myself in, which was my church group. And that kept me moving forward along with my recovery community, you know what I mean? And, at that particular time, I was going through, I would go to AA meetings and NA meetings. I would go to a place called the Winners Club in San Antonio, Texas, and then I was going to Celebrate Recovery as well. So, being intertwined in those communities and also going back as an alumni, at Starlight Recovery Treatment Center, that was even, for me, that was my whole day would be engaged in recovery and faith-based stuff. So, you know, without those two, I would have definitely went back, being, getting hit with two hard things that at first, were reservations for me to go back. You know what I mean? And I'm just grateful that I was able to recognize and to have the support of those communities, that I was able to keep my mindset where it needed to be, because it's very easy to stay stagnant and to stay complacent and to get and to do nothing. You know what I mean? To do nothing and to be isolated and that sort of thing, because from my personal experience, the isolation is a step to getting back into that darkness, and because I involved myself in all these positive things, I was able to have 10 years of sobriety after that, and I'm just grateful that I'm able to recognize those reservations and not deal and not act on them, and that's key, I believe, is knowing. And it goes all back to myself personally. It goes all back to the serenity prayer. The serenity prayer starts off, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. And if you can't change those reservations, then you don't need to dwell on them. You know what I mean? And grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference is to me is knowing those reservations and knowing what part of those reservations will get you back into the darkness. But having the teaching through your peer support, through your reading into the literature and staying engaged in those programs and staying engaged in those communities is going to give you the wisdom to know the difference of what to act on and what not to act on. And I'm just grateful that I was able to have those types of things in front of me, those types of tools in my what I call my recovery arsenal, to be there at an immediate response if I needed it, and I did, and I still do. You know what I mean? I still do. There's times that I could just give you an example. I just moved into this new place, and I'm grateful that I'm there, and I run into a guy who lives in the same complex, and a guy that I knew from he's a friend of mine, actually. He's a friend of mine. I've known this guy for about 10, 12 years or so, and we're good friends, and we used, in my days of addiction, I used with this guy, and he still indulges in his thing. He still drinks a little bit and indulges in extracurricular stuff or whatever. That's his life. And I run into the guy, and we talk. I would go. He invites me over. I'll go over. We sat down and talked for a few hours, and then I'll just let him know what my life was about at the time. The present moment, and he was kind of freaking out. You know what I mean? Because when he knew me, I was the guy who had the drugs. I was the guy who sold the drugs. You know what I mean? And we hung out together, and just all this kind of stuff like that. And he was just surprised at where I'm at in my life, and that I'm not using. And one of the first things he tells me is that when he hears my story, he's like, man, I've been really thinking about, I was talking to my sister about, I need to get back into that, recovery community. And so I think me being there and me sharing my story with him kind of give the guy some hope that it's never too late. You know what I mean? The reservation's going to be there, but if you have that community, if you have that support, then you can get to the path of recovery. You can stay in that recovery path, and you know that you're not doing it alone. You know what I mean? Know that you're not out there by yourself, because if you engage yourself in these communities, there's going to be support. And I know for a fact that I've never gone to any 12-step program or AA, NA, whatever it is, whatever recovery type people that you're dealing with or you're involved in, they're never going to turn you away. There's always going to be love. There's always going to be support. And it's people who genuinely care about another human being, and to bring them along into this, path, into this life of compassion, this life of enlightenment, this life of mindfulness, this life of being loved and loving. You know what I mean? So it's really great, and I'm just grateful that I'm able to share a message like that with you guys. You know what I mean? Because had you told me, a couple of years back that I would be doing a podcast on addiction and recovery and, helping people and this and that, and, I would have thought you were crazy. You know what I mean? I would have been like, get the F out of here, dude. I was a totally different person. And, I'm grateful for the fact that I'm able to share the message. And that's why I do the podcast, is to, share what has helped me along the way to get to where I'm at today in this life, in this realm of recovery and positivity and spirituality. And it's just awesome. So I'm glad to share a message, and I hope that my message today resonated with somebody. Maybe that my message today helps you into that first step, or maybe it helps you if you relapse. It maybe helps you get back into the recovery community and spirituality. And if it's your first time and you finally realize that you're addicted, that this hopefully is an inspiring message for you to seek the help. And know that your life can and will get better. And, because I know it could be tough, because I've been there and I've done that. And, I could remember when my dad, like 2 days before I saw him a day or two before he passed away, and went to visit him, and I could remember him telling me that he wasn't ready to die. You know what I mean? And I could just remember, years later thinking, it's like, man, I don't want to live like that. I don't want to be there in my last days and thinking that I don't want to die because, my life, I screwed it up. You know what I mean? I believe that the here and now is here and now. And if you're here listening to this podcast, then your here and now is here and now, and you can start that journey. You can start that journey into recovery and positivity and spirituality, because it's never too late. The door's always open. The invitation is always going to be there. And, I hope that this message resonates with somebody and helps somebody, because if I could just help one person, then my due diligence and my service work is being done, and I'm grateful. But, at this time, I would like to please encourage you guys to give me a thumbs up, give me a like, subscribe to my channel. All you got to do is tap that subscribe button. And just know that when you do tap that subscribe button, it doesn't cost you a thing. But know that when you do tap that subscribe button, you'll be helping out another veteran like myself, another homeless person like myself, another person dealing with PTSDs like myself, another person that has dealt with childhood traumatic experiences like myself, another person dealing with depression, anger, and suicidal thoughts like myself at one point in time in my life. And just know that you'll be helping out people like that with those neurological brain disorders. And it's great to be alive. It's great to be recovered. It's great to be happy and in spirit and in the world of spirituality, man. And I just encourage you guys to subscribe to my channel, share my channel, so we can, get another person on board over here in this great realm of sobriety and recovery and positivity and spirituality. So I thank you for listening to my radio podcast today. And I guess until the next time on When the Smoke Clears, I am the Recovery Plug.